Hey, 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 welcome to the daily stream. Some of you might already know, but we've got a couple special guests today. Joining us from up north, we've got Nick Hunter, and we've also got Richard. He's back fighting fires
Yes.
and going to teach us about servers today. So, welcome to the stream, guys. Happy to have you here.
Yep. Very welcome. Welcome, everyone. Happy to be here. I missed all of you yesterday, but it was a little exciting. Hang on one second. Let me see if I can turn on my camera here. See if that'll work.
Oh, there we go.
There we go. Right. So it was pretty exciting here yesterday. The fire started tearing through this part of the world, and about 20 fires grew into one, and it burned out a bunch. There's been quite a few homes that have been lost. I did 4 years as a firefighter, some of you know. So once you're a firefighter, you're kind of always a firefighter. So even when you retire or leave, you always like keep your gear, right? And so that's what happened. So what are we talking about today? We're talking about what is today, the PSOS SASE Day. Is that what we're doing today, Christian?
Yes, sir. We've got PSOS, SASE, and we're going to talk about robots as well. So very happy to have you guys join because you guys are actually much more experts on this than myself. So I'm just here to coordinate and actually learn a little myself.
Okay, so I'm still getting my Discord spun up, but I guess we can kick the conversation off. Nick, you're there? You ready to go?
I'm here, ready. Yeah, really ready to go.
Okay, so let's structure this. So initially, back in the old days, I was a speaker at DevCon years ago on the very first SASE. In fact, I'm the guy who coined the term. After they saw me use it at the developer conference, the engineering product management team stole the term and used it. So, and then of course, you'll see marketing people always say, you're not allowed to use that term because we didn't invent it, right? So seriously, I've seen that actually in an email. So, but yeah, SASE, server assisted script executions, the idea of a FileMaker server running a script. And then we have PSOS, which is a newer addition to that. And that's the idea that, the server, you can call the server, tell it to run it explicitly. So SASE's scheduled, right? It's like a scheduled event, like every day at 1 o'clock or midnight or every 5 minutes or something. PSOS, we've talked about quite a bit. Nick talks about it in lean design. It's where we tell the FileMaker client tells the server to do something for us. So Nick, why don't you talk about these briefly? If you want to show a little bit, I'm going to get my Discord running here so I can talk to people.
Yeah. So the SASE and the PSOS, so two things that are executed on server. So the SASE is when you have what's the name? Is when you have a script running on server at a specific date. Okay. So here we are in a server. So we have the script scheduled here. And you see here we have two different scripts that is scheduled every day, right? So every day at midnight, and this is the technique I'm using. I laid down this technique many times during the lean design course. So it's something I want to happen just after a minute after the new day happened. That means at midnight. So at midnight and 1 minute, every day, I want this script to be executed. Okay, so this is a SASE. That means you schedule it. It's a scheduled script on server. So you need to go to the console and you create a schedule and you say what it is, and you put the name of the script. Though the name of the script must be exactly the name of the script, right? So you say, okay, which database you want to use. As many repeat as the frequency, how you want that to repeat, once a day, once a month, once a week, once anywhere. Okay, so this is how you schedule a script. So here, what you need to pay attention here is that you cannot be crazy here. So let me explain. If you start to be crazy with SASE, you're going to destroy your server. So I saw, and Richard, I know you saw it, and Christian, I know you saw it too. Schedule script every 5 minutes. Yep. Every 5 minutes you have a script running. Okay, no problem. But the problem is, every 5 minutes the server was running a script that was taking 15 minutes to process. So every 5 minutes, you are executing a script that lasts 15 minutes, even more. So what happened is that you load, your script again and again and again and again, because you are coding the same script again before the last one ended. So if you go crazy with this, you can have a stack of running scripts, like is a mile-long stack of running script, and your server is constantly 90% occupied, 90% the processor used, right? The activity of your server. So that means you have 10% for everything else, and 90% of, so the SASE, you need to make sure what you're doing here. Forget about every 5 minutes or every minute and stuff. You cannot, here's the rule, you cannot use SASE to correct a flaw in your design. If you have a flaw in your design and you need the SASE to say, hey, okay, I have a flaw here, I want to move data from one table to another table, and I want to do that every minute. If you do that because you have a flaw in your design, you are in big doo-doo. That means at the end of the day, you're going to crash your server. So SASE is extremely dangerous, and you need to make sure what you're doing here, okay? So any question here? So do you want me to?
No, it's good. It's good.
Okay, so
we do have one question, actually. Someone wanted to know, what account are you using to run these SASE scripts?
Okay, so the SASE account is pretty much is using. So when you open the file, it asks you which. Let me see where it's asking this.
Well, SASE, it's in the setup for SASE. So
Yeah.
SASE, when you set it up on the FileMaker server, you're going to specify a username and password.
Yeah, exactly. So you can use. So what I'm doing, pretty much what I'm doing here. Let me show you what I'm doing here for the SASE. So I just saw you how you launch a SASE. Okay, so here are you have the so here you have the how you launch it, right? But now in the FileMaker solution, how you recognize the SASE script. So when you go to the workspace, pretty much what I'm saying, okay, schedule. Those are schedule scripts, okay? So schedule script on server, okay? SSOS, I call that SASE, or, I can rename that SASE. Schedule script on server, that's what I'm calling, schedule script on server. So, but that's my own terminology. So we can stick to use, yeah.
So let me interrupt real quick. So what Nick is showing you here is best practices. So SASE can run pretty much any script. PSOS can run any script. The problem with SASE from a strategic standpoint is that you have to remember its setup. And what happens is people set up on the server, it works really good, then they wander away, do their day jobs, they forget all about it. Then one day it fails and they don't remember what the hell they set up. So if you follow some best practices right here, where you put SASE over here, PSOS or whatever you want to do, perform script on server, or schedule script on server, SASE, SASE, then what you end up doing is you can lay breadcrumbs so you can come back and figure out what the hell you did previously.
Yeah.
And that's really important. So what this is the fact that he named it this way is not a requirement. It's just simply stating that, you need some way of identifying the scripts that will run. So with PSOS, obviously we've talked about this a million times, it runs the credentials that you have, that you yourself are logged in at the time you call it. So if the client, I don't know, Christian, if I draw in here, can you see that on the screen?
I can
yes,
see.
Yes, we can see that.
Okay, great. So if we're over here, we run a script that's going to call the server, and the servers are going to run over here and do its thing. It's going to get the credentials that we were using automatically here. If the server starts itself, right, during that setup process, we're going to specify a username and password for it to use. It's frequently useful to create a SASE specific credential set. Does that make sense? So you just don't give it your admin credentials, you give it something less.
Okay, so I'm going to show you that right in a minute. So
Yeah, go
this
ahead.
is where, yeah, to make sure that I can recognize the script that I'll run on server, they run on their schedule on server. I put that distinction, then I know what it is. So, but here you can see, you must absolutely, you need to make sure that your script are quick, fast, and there's no possibility of error. Forget about loops, forget about stuff like that. You need to be straightforward. Here it's very straightforward. I'm going to the current date, I'm going to the assets, I show all the records, I replace the current dates by I replace the date here in this field by the current date, and I set the variable error to see if that's an error or whatever. Okay, so so this is what I'm doing. That's it. You know, it's very quick. Goes, show all, replace, and quit, and that's it. Okay, so there's no crazy things. Okay, so now about what you just say about the security stuff. Here I have a SASE kind of login. Okay, so this is the user that I'm going to use for SASE. Okay, so it is specific for SASE with a very, very limited access. That means even you know, if anything happened, like a hacker goes to the server and start to be frenzy and want to use a backdoor like the SASE is, want to use a backdoor to run crazy things on the solution, he won't be able to do it. You know, he won't be able to use that backdoor because I put kind of what I call the SASE secure. Okay, so so I'm not going to explain too much here about the credential, but pretty much, you know, I have custom privilege for records. You know, I can go, this is what I modify, this is what I modify, and this is what I modify. That's it. Everything else, it doesn't have access. Doesn't have to. It doesn't have, because my script is not going anywhere else than assets, this and this. Okay, so it doesn't need, and the layout the same. I need one layout. That's it. This one. Yeah, this one. That's it. That's all what I need, right? So I'm limiting the access, and the script, I just need the script that I'm this executable. Those two. That's it. And maybe this one because it's a subscript. But that's it. You know, very, very limited access to the thing. So so this is SASE. SASE is very simple. I mean, you know, just make sure that you're not doing crazy things, like you know, like I mentioned, every 5 minutes stuff, every 2 minutes, even every hour stuff. This is not meant for that. You know, it's meant to be extremely you know, small and straightforward. Okay, so here the SASE can be very, very dangerous because you forget about them, and you can really screw up your server.
Yeah. So what we've run into this before. So the issues we've seen with customers is that we build the SASE for them, they build them or we build them, then people forget about it, then it's running. We had a customer. And I'm just going to say this loosely. They had I think it was on SASE. The process it would take, it wasn't built with lean design in it at all. It was just kind of thrown together. The script would take 26 hours to run. Nick, is this the one I'm thinking about?
Yeah. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, so it took 26 hours for this SASE script to run, which is a long time, and it had to run every day. And so I asked Nick, I would really like to talk to this customer because they've obviously broken the space-time continuum. I would personally love 26 hours in a day. You all can work 24, but it gives me 2 extra hours to catch up with all my stuff I do. It'd be freaking awesome. I'd love it. So anyway, so they were, that's where Nick coined the term, they're hurting the laws of physics or hurting Mother Nature or whatever. And so yeah, it's a problem. You have to think about this. And, you know, you can do loops in SASE, you can do loops in PSOS, but once again, you need to be thinking about lean design and good performance practices and things like that. So,
and that's why if you see my screen, you can see here, I'm setting up, I have what I call So I have here, you can see I have a kind of a subscript here. That means a script within a script that goes to the this server activity kind of table and log pretty much what happened here. So I'm logging the start time and the end time of the scripts, right, on all the scripts that are critical, and I'm logging the time, the duration, the pretty much what I'm sending here is what it is. It's a scheduled script. Get the account name, the duration, the script name, and the error that result from the script. So if I'm launching something like that and I see the duration like 5 hours and 10 minutes, for example, in here, I say, whoa, what happened here? Why it took 5 hours and 10 minutes to process, right? So that's why this is cool to have. When you have a script that run on server, you have this practice. So you have a kind of a table where you log the thing like that, the start time, the end time, the duration, and then you know what happened. When something is bad, you can see immediately. So that is good for everything that run on server. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, can you fire up a copy of Starting Point anywhere if you want? Do you have a copy of it running somewhere, or doesn't matter?
I don't.
Because it's interesting, because you can also, you're talking about logging stuff, and it's one of the things that we do with Starting Point. There is a automatic log in Starting Point. It's super useful. Don't worry about it if you don't have it. Most of you have a copy of Starting Point. There's on the second screen there is a button that says show the log, right?
Okay.
And whenever we start up a machine or we start up a copy, a user starts up, it makes log entries. So every time you run a PSOS or something, you could show and notate this data that you have right here, right? You could make a note that that it ran this is your line 12 there? Yeah, there you go. There's a one there. Copy of Starting Point enhanced. It doesn't matter. The new one, all the way back to version 5, I think this log is in there. The short version is that I would recommend making a log entry, create a new record, and when you do that, then you'll be able to see what's going on, and you're reminded that the system ran. That the trick is just not have it run wild, because it does limit you. Now, FileMaker Cloud 1 does support SASE and PSOS. FileMaker Cloud 2, I have not ascertained this, but there was a conversation or a question. Yeah. There you go. There's a log entry, some log entries there.
Yeah. So this is what I was showing. I was telling that I have the server activity, so I know what it is. When it's a script on server, when it's a scheduled script on server, we have said the same thing. Those are PSOSs. And I have here the duration of the script. So 58 milliseconds, 16 milliseconds, 20, that's okay. It's millisecond. It's nothing. It's like plaque, like that, right? So, and no errors, right? So, but if he says 10,000 and okay, that means that's a problem.
Okay, so in Starting Point and some of the other places we don't care about milliseconds. We actually just list seconds and minutes. Some processes we run will take a second or 2 seconds to run. I'm not really worried about those. If you have a process that takes 5-10 minutes, like I have a process, and then it gets to this conversation of when is it too much for SASE and PSOS, and that's kind of where this conversation goes, because Nick's showing it running fast. So what if it takes 15 or 20 minutes? What if it takes an hour? Now, I think 26 hours every day, I think most of you here would understand the problems with that, obviously.
Yeah, if you have a process that lasts an hour.
Yeah, you're asking a lot. This is where we get into robots. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm looking at David's conversation. He's saying I settled for importing records. I did it on the server. I didn't see any credentials required. That means somehow your FileMaker file is set for opening with no password, right? When you set up SASE, it's going to ask for credentials, right? Otherwise, it'll try to use the auto enter credentials. So if you have an older server, which allows you to have admin no password, which is the standard.
Here. Guest account name.
Yeah, I mean, you can try to go in as a guest account, assuming that you're allowed to do that. Understand on FileMaker Cloud, I don't Cloud 2 and Cloud 1 for the most part, I don't think they allow guest accounts. So you'd have to have your own FileMaker server, and you'd have to override the recommended security settings to do that.
Yeah. But this is where you set up, when you ask the file, and this is where you set up the account name and password. When you select the file, then when you have the file, then you have the list of scripts, and but here there's no script available for this stuff here. So so this is where you put the credential.
And Nick, if I could jump in and ask a question, when I was taught to do SASE, I was taught that it's good to make a SASE user versus using another user that already exists in the system. Do you want to speak to why that might be?
Yeah, that I just did. When you go here, you go to security here, and you create your a name, kind of a login, an account, which name is SASE, and then you have a privilege set for SASE, right? With a very secure and limited access.
That's exactly correct. Very good. And then, of course, PSOS, once again, uses the credentials from the client that you're logged in as.
Yeah,
now,
but
go ahead.
Yeah. No, yesterday I mentioned that PSOS, because so if you want, we can switch to PSOS right now. Can we do that?
You want to talk about that, but then we need to kind of move to the robot, because sometimes people have a very long process.
Yeah, no problem. So I'm not staying long on PSOS. PSOS are pretty much straightforward. But yesterday on the broadcast about the startup script and stuff like that, I was talking about to make sure that you don't run a crazy starter script each time you run a PSOS. So what happened is when you run a PSOS, FileMaker server is going to connect to the file as a new user. So you are adding a user, okay? So you are as a new user as yourself, okay? That means you are logged twice. You are logged in twice. You are logged in as the file here, and you logged in again when you launch the PSOS, okay, on the server. So you log twice. And when that process happens, FileMaker on the server, the FileMaker is going to trigger the script you have here and the script you have here on last window close and last window open and first window open. So those two scripts are going to be fired up. So you need to make sure that you are not going to launch something crazy. Let's say you have a crazy starter script. Okay, you don't want that to happen each time you do PSOS, because what you need to understand, if you are alone on the server, that's fine. But if you are 70 people, okay, on the server, it's not fine. Like this one here. Today they are 9 clients, but it's okay. But most of the time, the server I was showing, there are 70 people, 75 people. So when you are 75 people, launching PSOS all over the place, and they have to launch the script, you are in big to do. So make sure that I explained that yesterday. Make sure that you are stopping the execution of the starter script when it's server. When it says server, stop it, exit. Don't process, don't go more than this, okay? So that's important for the PSOS. Yeah, go ahead, Richard.
No, absolutely. Well, this gets into the issue, of course, then what happens, once again, I think a lot of people hitting quick little scripts are fine. I think the problem becomes when you have a big, for example, every night we run an update in our internal systems about subscriptions, right, for the training subscriptions. And those get updated, but it's evaluating, okay, back in the old days, we would say, find everyone in the database and update their stuff, right? And it took an hour, then 2 hours, and then it took like 12 hours. And so that's a long script to run. And so we said, well, let's update it to only find the people whose records have changed. And that could be another session. I think that would be a really good session, targeting records for processing where things have changed. I got to make a note about that. But only finding the records that have been modified. There's a way of tracking a modification count right there. When that number changes, every time you edit a record, every record database has its own little hidden number. When you edit, the number changes. And so then I could target and make it smaller. So I got the process down to like 3 hours. 3 hours is too long for SASE. I don't trust it. if SASE hangs, you run the risk of having to restart the entire FileMaker server. So the trick is to do a robot. There's one right there, 663 edits on that record, quite a few edits. So 64, so you change it right there. So the whole idea is that you get to a point where you can target very restricted, this is very lean design. One, having lean code, but then just targeting just records that need editing. So you could actually make a note that that record had been edited 665 times. And so as long as the last time it was edited matches that's current mod count, it hasn't been changed. But if the mod count goes up one, you can do a find on that. Pretty cool. So we were doing that with lean, and then lean code. And then we're like, oh crap, it's still 3 hours. So what we do is we set up a dedicated computer. In our case, the computer really needs to be next to the FileMaker server. So if it's an Amazon, it's another Amazon machine that sits next to it. If it's in your office, it's another machine that sits next to it. It runs FileMaker Pro, and we set it up to run on a schedule, and it runs its process at 2 or 3 in the morning. And so if the process hangs and crashes, the client blows up, but the server is unaffected, because FileMaker server is an expert at disconnecting misbehaving clients. If a client goes radio silent for more than 120 seconds, it disconnects them. If they do anything weird, it disconnects them. And so the idea is that if a machine crashes, I'd rather it crash a machine that's external to the FileMaker server instead of a process that's on the FileMaker server itself. Because if you crash that process on the server, that process runs SASE. It runs, sometimes it's involved with backups. It's involved with all sorts of stuff. And so you really don't want to have to go down that road, run it 3 hours, and crash, right? And so what we're doing is we're compartmentalizing the risk. The risk is compartmentalized into different sections. And so where, like each client is its own little compartmented risk. Like Nick here, if he crashes on a hosted solution, no one else will be affected by that. If the robot is running and crashes, no one else is affected. If SASE crashes, it could take down the whole server. So just keep that in mind. I mean, it's not supposed to, and Claris might get on stage and say, oh yeah, that doesn't happen. And then a month later, Jacob Taylor, my server guy, will go, hey, guess what happened last week? SASE blew up a server. So why take the risk, right? Especially if it's going to burn that long. So Nick, what do you think about that?
No, it's absolutely. It's when the process is, and you can even optimize the process. Let's say you want to deal with a table. Let's say you have your you look for the people with the counting of people, right? So the modification count. You suck in the information locally on your robot. You import them, on the file that you import. You do your treatment locally on the hard drive, right? So you import the data. You say, okay, I import the data. I'm doing my treatment. I'm doing all my calculation locally on the machine, right? That means I'm here, and then I push back the information to the server. Okay, so that means even if your server, so that the ultimate robots, that means the robot it's working as an autonomous machine that is just taking information and sending back information to the server. See, this is the ultimate robots. I was using this technique a long time ago in France on the nationwide kind of big newspaper where they had to deal with, you can imagine how 100,000 of articles and stuff like that. So I was using this trick of importing locally in a database that is local on the robot, doing the thing and then send back. So now we have even better tools to do that, and that obviously has the benefit of not getting your server in activity. What you need to track with server, this is very important. Let me show something on the server. So what you need to track on server is these guys here, the network and the disk. You don't want the disk to be like, writing and reading all the time. You don't want the hard drive to be busy all the time. You don't want your network to be busy all the time. That means you have transaction between the server and the clients all the time, because that means it's a bottleneck. It's a bottleneck. You have a bandwidth and you have a limited bandwidth. So if you have everybody occupying the bandwidth full time, then it will be slow. And of course, the CPU, which is you don't want the CPU to be 100% all the time, neither, right?
Yeah, that's why. I'll be honest. That's why we run the robot process. The robot during the day is pretty idle. It does little things every hour or two, little things. But the big heavy duty 3-4 hours of processing, updating everything, that runs at like 2 or 3 in the morning when I'm pretty sure most of my company is asleep or they should be asleep. So. So that's what that's. Questions about this idea?
Richard,
right?
David Angel had asked, so this is a PC running a macro, and I chimed in on that, and he's sent another article. So he's wanting to know if basically a robot is a PC running a macro, and he sent an article to us in Discord if you want to take a peek at that.
Windows macro recorder, translate activities. I mean, okay, well that's over and above. I mean, basically the robot. Okay, so here's the only tricky thing. So robot is a Mac or Windows computer that's running FileMaker Pro. I guess technically you could use an iPad if you're you're looking for challenges in life that you don't need to have, but it's a FileMaker client, not on the not WebDirect, but a Pro or Go machine. If you're a Mac person, use a Mac. If you're a Windows person, use Windows. The only tricky part is that FileMaker historically has a memory leak in the product. There's always a memory leak in the product. And what that memory leak is a fancy programming term for a developer or coder at FileMaker, not you or me, but a coder, an engineer at FileMaker, writes some code that's not really super clean and it doesn't declare variables right, and it doesn't clear them out right. And so it starts to leak memory. When it runs out of memory, it crashes. So every once in a while you get a client that crashes. Well, if you're on the computer and it crashes, you grumble to yourself, you restart it. If you're on a robot that's in a closet, up in the attic, some undisclosed location somewhere, how do you restart that? You have to know it crashed, and you have to remote in, pain in the butt. So the trick with the robot is that they can and will crash, and the trick is to restart them gracefully or to start them in the first place. So what we do is we have a script that on like one machine, a script that will run, and it runs every 5 minutes and it checks to see if it has any outstanding things to do.
Hey, and Nick, just to follow up that question really quickly, John Haggerty wanted to know, well, could this robot be a virtual machine running on the same server? And I wanted to let you answer that more than me just saying, no, I wouldn't do that.
No, the answer is no. Because you're going to share what's the name? You're going to share the machine. So you're going to share the resource of the machine. That means you're going to share the CPU, you're going to share the hard drive, you're going to share the same network. So pretty much you're doing this or running on server on the SASE, that's the same. So you need to make sure that server has nothing has nothing that is running along itself. Okay, so because it's just matter of IOs, and it's a pity Jacob is not here. He could have explained that much better. But it's a matter of resource of the server. You want to dedicate 100% of the server resource to FileMaker server. Okay.
Yeah. So the idea with the server is that there's only so much that you can push through to your hard drive, right? Especially if you have a big database. This is back to that enterprise deployment conversation we had a couple weeks ago with Jesse Barnum, where you really start overtaxing a server. The goal is to use lean design and thoughtful processes and efficient code and great design so you don't overload the server. However, you can't put enough people on a FileMaker server that eventually it's just too much for one server. That's where you have to have FileMaker in the enterprise. You have to have the replicated server, 2 servers. If either they're side by side, you put them geographically in different locations. But the idea is that this is primarily a design function, and all you folks have been around. I say guys, but we got probably Carol, we got probably Anna, probably got the Sheelys floating around. I can't see the other conversations, but pretty wild stuff. So
here I have a very simple good practice here. Okay, very simple. When something, let's say you have a process, you want to run the process at the end of the day of gathering everybody that's been modified and then apply a bunch of stuff to those people and then send those things. Okay, instead of it's like when it's like waiting until you don't have any plate available in your closet in the kitchen before you start cleaning them. That's exactly the same process. You eat, you take a plate, a dish, okay, you eat it and you put on the sink, and then you take a new one and you put on the sink, take a new one, you put on the sink, and then at the end of the week you need to clean up all those dishes. Instead, each time you use a dish, clean it and put it back in the closet. So the good practice here is this: if something needs to happen, it's better to make happen now to a customer or to an invoice or something like that. Make the updates, take the extra 2 seconds or the extra 10 milliseconds to write a micro tiny little script that updates what it needs to be updated right now, instead of waiting in a week and say, gather everything and do the update. You know what I mean? You know the difference here? So most of the time you can limit those scripts by saying, okay, hey, you know what? Each time I click here, I want this table to be updated and this table to be updated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Do it right now. It takes 10 milliseconds, a little 2 lines piece of script, and that's it. You're done, and you don't need to run those big scripts, right? So
the exception to the rule, and Nick knows this, is when your calculations are based upon the date, and then they all flip over at midnight, right? And we've talked about that. So that's where the bigger processes come in, when they're based on the current date, time elapsed, etc.
Yeah.
So that's
exactly and that's why I have. That is another course we have about the auto entry calculation. That's why here I have the dates on asset here. If you go here on my screen here, you see I have the current date schedule. So this is a date that my schedule script is updating every day. I'm going to asset, right? I'm showing all records, and I'm changing the dates with the current date. I'm changing this, and then all the auto entry calculation here are going to get update automatically just because I did that, right? Just because I did that is going to trigger every single auto entry calculation that points to this scheduled date. See, so because the scheduled date here is going to update all my auto entry calculation. That means at midnight and 1 minute, if you have all those auto entry calculation related to the current date, and you have a field where you are going to replace the date by the current date on all the table, all your auto entry calculation will follow like by magic, and you don't have to do anything else than just update this date field. So all those is part of I know it's look. I know it's easy to tell the thing, and is another thing to do the thing, okay? But keep that in mind. Try to anticipate what you can do to help the process down the road.
Perfect. So random questions. Canberra 57. Hey, how's it going, guys? Jake, Gadidi, Bob, Ken, Bunny, Scott, Top Cat, Dave 1, Dave 2, E-Dog, everyone, welcome. They're wondering what the oldest version of FileMaker is. Well, I mean, it always seems like no matter what you think is the oldest one, there's the one before that. I started with FileMaker Pro 2 in 1990. Nick, you would use Nutshell in 86, right?
I used the 84. I used Nashoba. My father, I remember I was 16. My father went to a CompUSA shop in New York. That was the only shop that was selling Mac product back in the day, CompUSA in New York. And I asked him and say, hey, Dad, I heard about a program that named FileMaker. Can you get a copy? And he bought a $450 copy back in 1984. I'll let you see how much that cost. And I used a Nashoba too. And the first database I used, the first database I built is a schedule, a wedding planning for my cousin, for her wedding. So that's the first thing I built with FileMaker.
The Wedding Planner, the movie, The Wedding Planner. All right, there we go. Well, some of the people here actually remember it, go that far back. I was 1990. Some of you were here before that. For those, some of you were here in the last year. It's all, you haven't seen anything from before FileMaker 18. So welcome to everyone. Everyone's welcome here. Any additional questions on the topic? I think PSOS, SASE, and the robot it's a good set of tools to have in your inventory.
Yeah, I like the question of Camera 57, oldest version of FileMaker to run as a robot. I know why you asked this, because I know you want to recycle kind of an old whatever eMac or whatever iMac G4. And actually it's a good question, because I've done that, recycling old Macs that was old computer that was taking dust in the closet, right? And you can reuse it. And the question, the answer of the question is FileMaker 9. So you can go down, back down, classic, pretty much, to run a robot.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, yeah, okay. Stop. You have to be able to run FileMaker Pro, and that copy of Pro has to talk to FileMaker Server, right? So you can run.
Right.
Yeah, I mean that's the limiting thing on this. Unfortunately.
Yeah. You're right. But you can go down kind of the road pretty old.
Yeah. So with Server 19, if you're using 19, you can go back one version. That's all you can do.
Yeah, I know.
With 17, you could go back quite a ways. A lot of people hung out with FileMaker 14 because of the sharing, the lower cost of the sharing.
Yeah.
You like share a server with people, but that's the problem. Apple, Claris. Okay, so back up. When Claris when they come out with a new version of product, they have to test it to make sure it works with all the previous supported versions. And for them to support 5 versions back on Mac, 10.14, 10.15, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows this, that's a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And so, so they're trying to simplify their lives a little bit down there, not put so much time into that. The problem for us is that we're forced to stay up to date. So pretty much the Canberra question leads us to you can't have a Mac that's too old. You can't have an OS that's too old.
Yeah, it depends. It depends if you have, for example, if you want to just get a kind of a USB key and copy the. But the question of this, the oldest version that can run install scripts, this install whatever script or on timer is FileMaker 9. So, but anyway,
speaking of that script step, Nick, David Angel, I think, is not quite sure exactly how this robot is fundamentally working. And I know that until I use that script step, it might not be intuitive. Could you explain a little further how the install on script timer works?
Okay, yeah. So you say when you select. Let's say you have a script. Let's say you have a on timer script here, blah. Okay, and so you have a script on timer here, and you want to install this on timer. So you go here and you select the scripts on timer. Okay, you select this script here. You can put the parameter if you have some. Okay, so if you have parameter, you can put, and then your interval in second. So if you want every 60 seconds, you put every 60 seconds, and then the script will run until you run another on timer script we set to 0. So this is very not intuitive at all. So this is how you stop it. Otherwise, the script is going to run automatically. So let me do a demonstration right quick here. Let me remove this. I don't want to mess up my script. So let's say I have in developer, I have a dummy script here somewhere. Here. So dummy script. So let's put on timer this, and the script on timer, let's make the script says show dialog, and the script will say blah. Okay, that's what the script will say. So that's what the script will do. Okay, so I'm going here and I say I want this to be not every 60 seconds, but every, let's say, 10 seconds. Okay, so and I have this coming. So what happened here? So if I launch this, here what happens? So I launched the let's open the scripts debugger here. So I launched this script. So so here, so now you will see what happened. So we wait 10 seconds, and up. See, so I have the dialogue popping up here. See the script going, blah. See, so the dialogue. So now it's gone. So we wait 10 seconds, and now it's back, right? So you say okay, and you again, you wait a little bit, it will be back.
And now you're in purgatory.
Okay, so
Yeah,
see, it's kind of easy to so, and this needs to be stopped by saying okay, put that on 0, and
Or-
then you stop it.
Yeah, so a couple little peripheral questions are things about this timer. So one, it's attached to the window. So closing the window kills the timer. If the timer is on the window, you duplicate the window, the timer comes with it. So you could have 2 windows with 2 timers that are running, okay? The way we use it at RCC is we have a timer that runs on a machine every 5 minutes, and it runs a script. Basically, imagine a very simple list view on a, and I'll see if I get a screenshot of this, but it's a very simple list view. And it's like, and every record in this list view is a script that we might need to fire somewhere, some process at RCC. So every 5 minutes, all it does is fires this main script on this. It's a file on the robot machine, and it says, hey, should we run this script? No. This script? No. This script? No. Kind of does a quick loop. Nick hates loops, but it does a quick loop through like 10 records or 20 records.
I don't. I love loop. I'm using loop a lot, but
yeah, wisely use loops. So with 20 records, it's not an issue. And it goes through and it determines if which of these need to be run. If none of them need to be run, then it just stops and the script stops. So the script timer will, so here's the thing with script timer. Script timer will fire when the machine is done running whatever scripts it's running. So if you happen to be editing a record, but no script is running, it will fire. If you're doing stuff, if you're doing whatever, it doesn't really care, it will fire. But it waits till a little break in the action, not for you to finish editing a record, it'll interrupt that. But if you're running some other script that takes a minute, it'll wait till that other script gets done. So it's not a precision tool, like precisely at 3:01 and 22 seconds, 0.0001 Zulu Greenwich Mean Time. It's not going to do that. It's going to get to a point where it says, okay, I need to run. Is FileMaker ready to run? Is it kind of free? Give me another 2 seconds. Okay, now it's ready. Then it runs. So it's a little bit easy going. It's like the neighbor that, you ask him for a favor. It's like, hey, no problem. Just give me 5 minutes and I'll get it done for you. That's the way they wrote this. It's not a brutal taskmaster that will beat FileMaker senselessly. Kills other scripts in the way and stuff like that. It doesn't do that. So just understand how it works.
Yeah.
It's your friendly neighborhood spider script, right? Friendly neighbor Spider-Man. Yeah. Friendly neighbor spider script.
But most of the time, I was, I don't know if you, for who knows me for a long period of time, I've built a crazy replica. That pretty much got me hired at FileMaker. Is when I build my YouTube. You can find on YouTube iTunes made out of FileMaker.
Yeah, so everyone showed it to me, but we couldn't ever get a copy of it. So Nick built back in the day when iTunes was brand new. For a Hollywood person, I can't remember who it was, Justin Beavers or something like that.
Timberlake.
Timberlake. Oh, okay. So basically, there's a version of iTunes. It looked like iTunes. It worked perfectly like iTunes, but it was all based in FileMaker Pro. 10, I think.
I start with 9 and I end with 10. It took me that long to.
So if you want to talk about the file with the maximum number of legal hacks in one FileMaker file, this is where the word hack. If you look up FileMaker hacks in dictionary, it's a picture of this file. Okay, but it works amazingly. I wish you could show it, but once again, Justin Timber Beaver Lake or whatever his name is won't that.
I don't have too much of the. It's just that the file never been converted to FileMaker FMP12, and I never worked on. It's running. It's kind of it's very hard to make working, and I don't have time for that. So yeah,
that's fine. So pretty cool stuff. But you did some of this stuff in there with the on timer stuff.
Yeah, so I build with two things. So Andre Kudelka, from Two For You software. So he got his plugin, sound plugin modified for me. And at the same time, I use a on timer every second to make the timer to show the second running, on the music, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So,
wow, okay.
but Andre Kudelka, what he did, he added a function into the scripts to actually you play the music on the background, and the plugin was calling the song to tell what the time right now in the song. So I had exactly the timer of the music, not a timer on the side of the music. So it was kind of very precise, by the way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's how I experiment the on-timer stuff. Yeah,
well, we need to kind of wrap up for today. Do we have any final questions? If folks can check the YouTube side and the Twitch side, I can't see those
Just
right
real
now.
quick, Richard, and I do need to wrap up for a session, but this was interesting, and I'm not even sure quite what he means, but in Twitch, Dan Rosenstein says, we switched from timers on bots to on-record load on bot. Forgot who came up with that trick originally. That's not something I'm familiar with.
Yeah, I know. Something has to trigger. So, I mean, on-record load, I guess you could...
I feel like there's more to this than we're aware of.
The only way I could see that being useful is if you ran a SASE script on a schedule that would create SASE would log on and create a record for you. So here's this. This is very backhanded 007 secret. I hate to say this because this is another session we should do, but you can trigger scripts on other people's computers without them knowing you did it. I will tell you. I'm just going to this is what he's probably talking about, but. Once upon a time, this is back about 4 years ago, I scared Rick Kalman. I said, Rick, I texted him. I said, Rick, he's a head product manager at Claris, back when they, loved me and would talk to me. And he goes, I go, Rick, this is cool. You got to see this demo. And what we would do, you could press a button in FileMaker Pro, and you could do screen share with people and show stuff to them, right? And I gave it to Rick, and he logs on, and I pressed the button, and I forced a screen share between his computer and my computer, and I could see all his computer. Well, it was a bunch of classified, top secret, FileMaker 25 planning, and what we're going to do in 10 years and 5 years. I didn't see any of it. All I knew is they shut it off real quick. The point is that you could initiate through FileMaker a screen share for like tech support or something. Could be huge, could be absolutely huge. And so there's a blog created by these guys. And the script, the script, we have perform script on server, right? So the idea is telling a script to run on the server. You can tell a script to run on the client. It's a total hack. If everyone can set aside their great dislike for hacks and say, we love you, Nick, and your hacks. We love Nick. If we can get past hating hacks, we can show this. It's pretty amazing. It will blow your mind. It's definitely not bunny compliant. There'll be many dead bunnies died to bring us this information. It's a Star Wars, so many Bothan spies died to bring us this. There'll be many dead bunnies who will not understand this. But conceptually, imagine one FileMaker user telling another FileMaker user to forcibly run a script. Very, very useful. Also very dangerous. We called it PSOC. PSOC, perform script on client, force it to run on the client. So I'm sure that's what Rosenstein is probably referring to. All right, I'll cut everyone loose. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected the quarterback. Great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Try to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snacks a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Ball slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.